this other guy that I was just having a chat with on Facebook. He had a painting company who said he went from that was making $800,000 a year. He got up to 4 million in like the next year or two. I asked him,
Sure.
what exactly really like scaled you there? He was like, bro, door to door. I was like, what?
If you're not going out and reaching out to those homeowners, you're essentially the guy standing behind the table at the home show just hoping people come to you. And many would say, well, we have our ways of reaching out. We use digital marketing. And that's great. And you need that. But that's where the marriage comes in. It's you need all of it. Because if you don't do that, you're essentially accepting a disadvantage. I don't care if you're just getting started or you're an $800,000 business or you're a $3 million business. It doesn't really matter. You have to understand that your capacity for leads, okay? From there, you have to understand what is your cost to acquire a lead. We can get lost in, well, what's better, or like, should I do this or should I do that? Before you start to say, should I send postcards or should I put a billboard up or should I wrap my trucks or should I do flyers, knock doors or whatever, you have to understand what your customer acquisition cost is and what your capacity is for more leads.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Coffee with Kofi podcast. I am with one of my favorite gentlemen today, Chris Hofstra. So Chris is one of like the co-founders of Lead Scout app. I will not dive into that too much because I'm going to let him do it. It's a very interesting podcast we have today because we're really going to be talking about online versus offline marketing. Who wins? So it could be a little like heated here and there because I tend to lean more on the online marketing and Chris tends to lean more on the offline marketing, but we always have a way to like marry each other and make sure it works out. So that's why Chris and I also work hand in hand. So without much further ado, Chris, welcome to the podcast. Appreciate you being here. Could you like let the people know who you are and what Lead Scout is and what you guys do as well?
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me, Kofi. It's an honor to be on your podcast. We had kind of talked about that when we first met, and you'd kind of brought that up. So when you reached out, I was pretty pumped.
Awesome.
But yeah, like you said, I'm really excited to talk about this topic. I think those listening will kind of see that it's kind of an ironic that you say, that there's kind of like we find this marriage because 100% that's what happens, right? And it's all kind of the context of how you approach those two channels. So I'm really excited to dive in that with you. A little bit about me. So I just turned 40, so, just to kind of give you an idea where I'm at in my professional career.
Wow.
So I've been around the block a little bit, but still feel like I have a lot of road ahead of me, 3 kids. My wife's part-time at home, part-time at the office. So yeah, I mean, life is good. I'm just trying to be a friend and a dad and a husband and a business partner and a visionary in some respects. But yeah, I mean, in terms of, kind of what I'm doing today, like you said, I'm the co-founder of Lead Scout. I have 3 incredible partners, 2 work in the business with me, and one is a silent partner. It takes money to build an app, and so our 4th partner played a big role in that to allow us to be here. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited to get into it, and hopefully that was enough of an intro for those listening.
Absolutely. Wow. That was actually fantastic. And it's like, so I wonder is like right before we get into it too, because, you're definitely doing a lot and you have a lot of responsibilities and roles. And the thing I know about you that I absolutely also adore about you and it actually inspires me is how not only are you able to focus on Lead Scout, but you're able to like also go to all these other home improvement businesses, roofing companies and all of that to also help them with the canvas and aspect to really like help them like understand how they can utilize that to like get more leads and scale. Like, how do you balance all of this at the same time being a dad, being like a brother and everything? Is like, it's a lot going on. How do you normally balance these?
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you bringing up the brother part. I forgot if my brother and sister are listening to this. I wasn't trying to leave you. I'm a brother too, and that's important. In fact, my brother and I just got together the other night and we're up till I don't know, like 11 or something like that, just chatting because, you got to stay connected. And but yeah, I mean, I'm glad you brought up the, going out to these contractors. So what Kofi's saying is I started doing some consulting, some coaching. Lead Scout is a fishing pole. It's a tool,
Mm,
and it doesn't catch fish on its own. You have to use it and know how to use
mm,
it. And
mm,
so in terms of, helping contractors in the home improvement space with lead generation, we provide this piece of software, but I thought what was often lacking was just understanding how to implement it.
mm,
Now, it's a difficult thing to scale, right? And so we decided that that wasn't something that we were ready to implement into Lead Scout's
mm,
business model and services. But I felt personally, I've developed these relationships with a lot of contractors all over the country, and in many respects, it's like I want to see them succeed. Yes, there's a
mm,
business economic element to these engagements, but
mm,
I genuinely want to see these guys succeed. So
mm,
you're right. I started doing that this year, and it's been a lot of fun. It allows me to get into the business and be a part of it.
mm,
Um, and then, of course, the residual value of that is now they're really maximizing this piece of software that we spent so much time and money building.
mm.
So it's been a really cool win-win or win-win-win for everybody, for Lead Scout, for me, and my professional development, and
Mm,
just, I mean, we all have these needs to fill, right? To feel
mm,
valued and feel like you're serving,
mm.
and then also obviously the win for the contractor.
Yeah,
So
I love that. I love that, Chris. And that is like it's very interesting to me as to like what you do because to be honest, before and I know you know this too, right? Before we met, I would have never considered like what you guys do with the
mm,
canvassing and all of that, the door to door. Because for me, and I guess this is probably coming from a bias standpoint. For me, with like the digital market, I'm like, why should I pretty much just like take hours out of my day and go door to door knocking, which is like pretty much kind of like one to one marketing the entire time, showing up to people's like houses where they may not even want to see you. It's like you're bothering them. Whereas
hmm
I could just like be on social media and just like, do this one time marketing. I can get to all these doors at once and that would be a much like better turnout because it's like
hmm
volume negates luck, right? Volume is king. So I'm like, I never really considered that, but and I mean that's what's happening right now, right? A lot of like companies are really like getting into the digital marketing standpoint of things, really understanding what Facebook can do, what Google can do, even TikTok, even Pinterest, all these other things that is relative
hmm
to their companies, and then really like marketing that to get leads in. So,
Yep.
and it's just like my beliefs were broken with you. My beliefs were also broken with like this other guy that I was just having a chat with on Facebook, who said he had a painting company that was making $800,000 a year, and he got up to 4 million in like the next year or two. And I asked him like, out of everything that you did, because he's incorporating digital marketing and other stuff. I asked him
Sure.
what exactly really like scaled you there. He was like, bro, door to door. I was like, what? Like it blew my mind. So
Really.
it really did. It blew my mind. So it's like I'm like, can you like really just share insights on like the continued relevance of offline marketing, like
hmm
with the door to door and stuff like that, particularly like with canvassing? Like, how has Lead Scout helped contractors to really capitalize on offline marketing methods?
hmm Yeah, I think so. Before I answer that question, I want to point out some of that irony that I was alluding to before.
Mm,
The irony is like you and I are together, working together. Why? Because I'm doing digital marketing, right? So
mm,
obviously it works. Obviously you have to have it. Otherwise,
mm,
you and I would not have engaged
yeah.
in our business.
Mm,
So it is vital to have the online. Um, I mean, in many ways, it's driving all of our sales right now. All of
mm,
our funnel that brings people to us.
mm,
Um, is done through digital marketing.
right.
Now, rewind a few years ago when we were first getting started, it was more of a door to door type mindset. And what I mean by
Mm,
that is we were calling and connecting with people in the industry,
mm,
manufacturer reps, distribution reps in the home improvement space. We
mm,
were going to trade shows and things like that. And that was our way of door knocking, but it was very slow and it was one-to-one, right? You get a connection, you do a demo, you have a call. Now, it was important at that time because we were creating relationships, and I felt like that channel made sense at the time. We also just didn't have the resources, or we felt like we didn't have the resources. I think I would challenge that notion now that to run ads. And so it's interesting how we started there, moved into digital. So, and I use the trade show analogy kind of like when I'm talking with contractors about what it's like to door knock. And I always say to them, if you were to go to a home show, so whether I'm going to a conference where there's contractors and it's B2B, or I'm a contractor going to a home show where there's homeowners, B2C, I say, if you're at the home show, you've paid money, right, to be there. What would be better if you just stood behind the table and just kind of had your hands folded and you just kind of hoped people would come to your table and ask about your roofing company? Or is it be better if you're standing out in the aisle, grabbing people and pulling them and telling them how great your company is and how much they need you? And obviously it's the latter. And so then I say, well, how's that any different than when you go paint a house in a neighborhood or put a roof on a neighborhood or do siding? I got my LP hat on, do your siding in a neighborhood. If you're not going out and reaching out to those homeowners, you're essentially the guy standing behind the table at the home show just hoping people come to you, right? Now, granted, you're going to say, and many would say, well, we have our ways of reaching out. We use digital marketing, right? And that's great, and you need that. But that's where the marriage comes in. You need all of it, right? Because if you don't do that, you're essentially accepting a disadvantage and saying, I don't need to make those connections. And you do, because competition is stiff and it's only getting more competitive. So, I think in terms of kind of coming back to your question about the offline, it's really about they who have the most touches with the homeowner will win. And that includes all of that digital, all of that online, and all of the offline, as much as you can get. So now the question is, well, Chris, I don't have unlimited time, right? Like, how do I, like you kind of said, like, seems like a lot of wasted time to like walk around one-to-one. But the reality is it's not just about people seeing you. It's about people having attention to hear you. And the downside, if we're doing a SWOT analysis or whatever we want to do with online marketing, it's just noisy and they're not paying attention. So we gain the benefit of all of the, subliminal, brand impression and kind of that piece of it, surely. But when you go to a door and they come to the door and they're talking to you, you have their undivided attention. That does not happen digitally very easily. So what you lose in the number of people you can reach, you exponentially gain in their attention. And when you have that attention, you can do something that's very difficult to do on digital. And that is, you can present a need that they didn't know they had when they woke up, or a want that they didn't know they had when they woke up. Now, you can still do it on digital as well, right? I mean, I buy things that I wasn't expecting to buy because of an ad. But when it comes to high ticket items, that's the key. Like if you were going around selling, a $10 bottle of, window washing cleaner, although there's that viral video of the guy that does that and he's amazing and I love watching it. The door-to-door guy that sells the cleaning stuff.
Yeah.
I think everybody's seen that. So it's a little ironic that I use that example, but you get my point is if you can get to just a couple people, right, throughout the course of a day or a week, it's very much worth it. And if it's not worth it for you, that's where, as any business scales, you have to bring in the people to do that. And I'd love to talk a little bit about what that looks like, but I hope that answers the question. It's really all of it. And it's understanding that when you're there, you're already there. You already went to the trade or the home show. Why wouldn't you reach out into the aisle? Right. And that's when it comes to door knocking. We talk about starting with your job site, starting with where you're running appointments. You're already there, right? You probably paid a bunch of money to get that lead, right? You have a 40% close rate, we'll say. So 60% you have a 60% chance that nothing will come of that. So what are we going to do to leverage that? Well, there's neighbors around you, and you could just run the lead and leave, or you could run the lead and knock some doors, right? And I'm talking to the salespeople right now, the people that are running the appointments. They're not really your door knockers, right? We delineate between salespeople that run appointments, right, in the home service business, and canvassers. They're two different people, right? And so talking about the salesperson that's like, they're hungry. They make a lot of money when they make a sale. So my message to them is, listen, John, you're already there, right? And unless you're so booked with appointments that you can't reach out to 10, 15 people, that's just low hanging fruit.
I love that, Chris. That's a very like intuitive way of looking at it, specifically as well with the trade show aspect of things. Like your actions really do matter, right? And it's got me curious about a lot of things here, because it's like I'm curious about what do you think about companies that rely only like solely on like either door to door and referrals, or companies that rely solely on online digital marketing, SEO, targeted ads, and all of that. Like, do you think the marriage is actually much better than like having just solely one or the other? Because I've had a lot of conversations, I must say, where I mean, personally, until I met you, I would never because I want to start my own home improvement company right now. Well, I'm pretty much already in one with like a painting company that I co-own, that we're like, really striving to get stuff going, right? And door to door is something I am pushing. I would have never done that until I met you. So it's like but we're starting with like the online aspect first, really to really get that going, and then we get that in person door to door going as well. So I'm wondering, like if you could share like just the I guess insights on like the relevance of the online marketing together with like the online marketing and the marriage and stuff with it. Like, do you think that is really the way to go? Do you think somebody can only just rely on online, or only rely on offline?
So I'm going to give you the technical answer to that. The technical answer to that is, I don't care if you're just getting started, or you're an $800,000 business, or you're a $3 million business, or you're $10 million. It doesn't really matter. You have to understand that your capacity for leads, okay? And then from there, you have to understand what is your cost to acquire a lead, right? So what I'm saying, kind of the fundamentals here, this is like a little bit 101, but it's very important, because we can get lost in, well, what's better, or like, should I do this or should I do that? But the reality is we need to understand whatever it is you're doing. Like if you're doing these, okay, I just got this in the mail, okay? If DuraPro painting, okay, I don't know how much they're spending, how many of these they're sending, what they're spending. They ought to have a way to track for every 1,000 of these, how many leads do they get, right?
Right.
So the question is, what are you spending in marketing, whatever that is, and how many leads are you generating? And could you use more leads? And answer that question honestly, not just, well, yeah, of course we could use more leads. Like I'm talking like good leads, right? Good quality leads. Based on that answer, now you have a benchmark. So maybe this is all this guy's doing. He's living off referrals, right? Maybe he knows some realtors, right? And he's kind of doing some networking, which by the way is just a form of door to door. Like, let's not just make door to door just putting your fist on the door. Door to doors, Tony Hody talks about this. It's called go get marketing, right? It's when you are going to get them, not putting a billboard up and hoping they come to you, or putting a digital ad out and hoping they come to you. You are going to get them. So the question is what is your capacity to get more quality leads? And if you need 10 more leads a week, right, and you know what you're spending to get what you currently have, then you have a benchmark. So I would base those decisions of what you should do off of that first. You have to know your numbers. I think that's what I'm saying, right?
Yeah,
I'm saying before you start to say, should I send postcards, or should I put a billboard up, or should I wrap my trucks, or should I, do flyers, knock doors, do some Google guarantee, or, Facebook or whatever,
Mm.
you have to understand what your customer acquisition cost is
Mm.
and what your capacity is
Mm.
for more leads. Once you have that, then you can start to look at, okay, let's try to our very best to understand what certain levers will yield for us if we pull them.
Mm.
Now so this is my opportunity to talk, door knocking. Okay.
Yep. Bring that
Now
in.
that I know you got the painting business,
Mm.
hopefully you're inspired to be like, okay, I don't know why I haven't done this. Maybe you are already.
Mm.
I'm going to go do it next week. Okay.
Mm.
So here's how it works. This is the numbers on door knocking.
Mm.
If I can knock, say, 15 to 20 doors in an hour,
Mm.
and you can, because remember, about 60 to 70% will not answer
Mm.
or aren't home. It's one of the two, right? They
Yeah.
could be home, they just don't want to come to the door, or they really aren't home.
Yeah.
So a majority of those homes aren't even home. That means that the only thing you're doing time-wise is just walking up to the door and then leaving and walking up to the next one,
Mm.
right? If I can get to 15 or 20 doors in an hour,
Mm.
and what's a full day? 8 hours,
Yeah.
okay? 20 times 8 is 160 doors in a
Mm.
day.
Mm.
Very reasonable.
Yeah.
Now you have companies that guys are hitting 60 or guys are hitting 240. I've heard some crazy numbers, right?
Okay.
I don't want to get into why that is, but we're going
Mm.
to stick with about 160.
Okay.
Out of those 160, if 60% of them aren't home, right? What is that? That's 60 plus 60% of 60 is 36. So we're at
Yeah.
96. Or about 100 didn't
Yeah.
even come to the door,
Yep.
right? And I won't go through the whole math, but at the end of that 160, we should have about 4 to 6 appointments,
Mm.
right? 4 to 6 people have said, yeah, some of them are going to be reluctant,
Mm.
right? Yeah, you can give me a pain estimate. That's fine. Others like, actually, we've been talking about that,
Mm.
right? So a very small percentage of those people, right? That's what deters us from it. It's like, man, I'm
Mm.
only going to get like 4 to 6. Okay, but let's do the math on this. Okay,
Mm.
in one day, 4 to 6. So of those 4 to 6, I'll just pick 5. We'll say we got 5.
Mm.
Of those 5, we're only going to meet with 4 of them
Mm.
because one of them is going to bail,
Mm.
right? Because of
Mm.
that reluctancy.
Yeah.
One of them, so we have 4.
Mm-hmm.
One of them will buy because that's your number. I mean, your numbers. If you have 4 good appointments or 4 ran appointments,
Mm.
you have a closing percentage. Now you
Mm.
notice I took 25%, which if anybody listening, that's pretty conservative. That's fair, right? I didn't say 50% and try to say you're going to close 2. No, you can close 1.
Mm.
So what do you make on one customer? You know that answer if you're running your business.
Yeah.
So let's just say that customer you made $3,000 because we're in home improvement. We're not selling the $30 bottle of cleaner. We're selling a product that makes us about $3,000.
Mm.
So now what I do is I say, okay, $3,000, okay, in one day with one person. How much you paying that person? $20 an hour,
Mm.
right? Plus
Mm.
some bonuses for those appointments, or maybe
Mm.
a bonus if it sells. However you want to do that,
Mm.
right? Let's say it was $20 an hour, okay?
Mm.
So $20 an hour times 8 hours, right?
Mm.
That's your customer acquisition cost. How does that compare to the benchmark you set, right? If you're
Mm.
sending a bunch of these, you're spending a bunch of money on these. How does that compare? And what we find is it's one of the most efficient customer acquisition tools that you have, right?
Mm.
You're typically going to spend $300-400 tops
Mm.
to get a paying customer. And in the home improvement business, that's incredible,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
I'd probably have to spend $2,500 on these to get a customer. I know that because I do it. We actually provide that as a service, as you know, Kofi.
Yeah.
So we built in a back end direct mails piece of our business,
Mm.
and that was our focus for a long time because of the feelings you had about door knocking. That seems like such a waste. Like it takes so forever. Like what if I could make mail more smart? We tried to
Yeah.
make mail smarter. And what we found is it just didn't move the needle. Even if you do that, it doesn't really move the needle, right? So when people are like, well, should I just do the mass mailers? Or I'm like, you should try everything and measure it. I'm not anti-mass mailers. I used to be like, oh yeah, we do targeted, smart, intelligent mailers. Don't waste your mail, spraying and praying, right? We still tease that a little bit, but the reality is like, it actually might be more effective. You don't know, you should do it. And at the end of the day, if you're measuring it, that's what's driving your decision. And so that's when we made our pivot to door-to-door sales, to the door-to-door sales persona. And we said, that's the person we want to talk to. We don't want to talk to the person that says, I'm not willing to knock doors. I want the easy button. I want to wave a magic wand, send a bunch of these, and have people just my phone ringing off the hook. I wish it was that easy, right? It doesn't work that way. But the good news is, when we started to look at the numbers, like I just shared with you, I'm like, wait a second, this isn't that bad. In fact, this is fantastic. And not only are we showing a direct attribution for that work you did in 8 hours, and it yields, say, $3,000, which, do the math quick, 200 business days times 2,000, right? You just made 3 million. If you're a $3 million business, you doubled your business with one canvasser knocking doors every day. I just doubled your business. That's how it works. So we see that, but then what aren't we talking about when it comes to that canvasser? We're not talking about the flyers that they're leaving at the door of all. So when you do that math, it comes out to about 20,000 doors hit over the course of the year. So yeah, we're only talking to a very small percent of people each day. We're only booking an appointment with a very small percentage, right? We're hopefully getting that one job each day, which makes it extremely efficient in and of itself. But what about all of the brand impressions that matter, that what online does, that you were able to do because you were in the neighborhood, because you went to all those doors, you left all those flyers, and you left your story, you told your story at all of those doors, right? Now, I don't know what that's going to be, but I have a pretty good hunch it's going to be 0.1 to maybe even 0.5%. We'll say 0.1, okay? What if you had a 0.1% response rate on all your flyers that you left on those 20,000 doors over the course of the year? That's 20 more really good calls.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then of those 20, you're going to meet, you just take the same math at it, right? So now when we do that, what happens is the owners say, well, I want 4 guys doing that. I want it to be 80, 100 people calling just on those flyers, not to mention all the appointments they're setting for me.
Man, look, and this is what I love about you, Chris. You have a very calculated, intuitive way of just like thinking about things and just like really making it logic and making it work. Honestly,
Cool.
It's very uncanny, and I love it. Like, it's like you've made such a strong point, because we know a lot of people, a lot of business owners, just, number one, they don't know their numbers. Number two, they don't really try enough measures to know exactly what works. And then number three, they don't really like put that extra volume into things. Now, it's like, based off of what you said, I want to like stay in that pocket a little bit, because I'm sure there are like tactics and means for you to maximize on those conversions to even do better, so you can even win even more. So it's like in a situation, like, of course, and this is where Lead Scout comes in, and this is where, like, also like sales comes in. Like, could you talk to me and also like the audience as to, because I know and understand exactly what Lead Scout is. I know and understand the people you're talking to and everything. I'm wondering, why shouldn't somebody just like keep using the pen and paper route, but then use like the app in which they can actually like pin houses, and somebody can also like use that to manage them, and how does also sales come into this too, like in terms of like being able to sell, because that's a huge thing. Because it's like, I worked with many people, I've generated lots of leads, and they don't close, and they come and blame me. I'm like,
Yep.
yeah,
That's a great point. Well, thanks for asking that, because now you're letting me talk about why Lead Scout is so necessary. Because I love teaching the fundamentals and helping people. I mean, I'm not teaching it; I'm just helping them unearth what they already know and apply what they already know to the question of, well, what should I be doing? Because I hear this all the time. Like, what would you recommend? Should we do a little bit of this, a little bit of that? And it's like, well, we just need to break down the numbers, and because you know your numbers, and what kind of fits in your just your culture, sometimes it's like a paradigm too, like how you view your business in the marketplace. I know lots of people that would just be like, I just don't want to knock doors. Like, I get the numbers, I agree with you. It's just not something that I want to be a part of what we do. And that's fine. That's their view, their worldview, I guess, of their business. But so once you have established the theory behind it and the practice of it, then it allows us to say, okay, you've accepted that as truth and you want to move forward with it. You need a tool to help organize, manage, and track that. Okay. So the reality is it's not, it doesn't take much explaining. I think everybody probably already knows how important it is to have a tool like Lead Scout to track that rather than pen and paper. Look no further. I mean, my daughter's coming in here. That's why I was talking to her. I muted you because she's like, Dad, I got to go back to school. She just went to the dentist, had a crown put on, and she doesn't really know what's going on here. She's just like, Dad, I got to go back to school.
I love it.
But my point is, the reason I bring that up is that dentist office was full of kids and they're just coming through like crazy. Can you imagine what it would be like if that dentist office, like, we're just going to keep everything organized by pen and paper?
Oof.
I mean, or a hospital. It's like, we're going to see all these patients all day long. We're going to see these patients and we're just going to kind of keep things on a notepad. And if you need to know about it, you can just look in the notepad. I mean, that'd be like nuts. Like, it wouldn't even work, right? Yet there's a lot of people out there that are treating door knocking like that, or really anything that they're doing. They're just like, well, we don't need an app. We just, two things. They either say, well, Chris, we either set an appointment or we don't. Okay, that's fair. I mean, I guess I can kind of see that from the standpoint of like, all you really care about is those 4 appointments that you set, right? And making sure that they get run. Okay. But that's, in my opinion, missing out on so much opportunity, because that's what we call a lagging indicator. I worked really hard today. I produced 4 appointments. Those are lagging indicators. What did I have to do to get to those 4? What happened? It wasn't just 4 people and everything else was just nothing. Right. And so by using a tool like a Lead Scout, it allows me to measure leading indicators. What helped me get there so that I can do more than 4 next time? Because if I work on the leading indicators, it makes my lagging indicators better. If I'm only looking at my lagging indicators, how do I produce more? Right? It is what it is. So the first thing is understanding what were the parts and pieces that got you there, right? And then from there, it's being able to analyze that information, which is kind of the same thing, but analyzing that information so that we can better coach our people, right? Better celebrate them, better encourage them and correct them. If we don't have that information, we have no visibility on what's going on. And I can tell you, I've found, and our customers find, incredible amounts of efficiencies by just looking at the data. Why is it that these 3 people out in the field have these rates, these ratios for not home or not interested or come back, right? If I see somebody with double the percentage of comebacks, meaning like they said, hey, I don't want to set an appointment, can you just come back another time? I mean, we know this. Like, that's what I would say if someone came to my door, right? You just come back another time. If these 2 people have twice as many comebacks as these 2 people, we need to work on objection handling. So to your question about, okay, tell me about the sales part, because it matters, right? But I can't help those people improve their sales if I don't know which, because I can't just, just make sure everybody knows how to do objection handling better. Okay, that's not scalable. I need to be focusing on the people that really need it, or I need to maybe say there's not a place on the team, right? It's not a good fit for you.
Right.
But obviously you don't do that right away. You gotta work with them and then you figure that out. So we look at all those things. And so you have to have a tool no matter what you're doing. You guys are helping us with that on a digital side, providing us all the data and analytics. Is one of the reasons why we reached out to you guys, is because we didn't have that. We were just like doing ads, spending money on ads with our eyes closed. We didn't know what was going on.
Right.
We were only looking at lagging indicators. You remember that? We're like, yeah, we saw a spike. We saw this hockey stick of signups, but we had no data behind it because we weren't measuring it. We didn't know how until you guys came along. So you're essentially the Lead Scout app of our digital marketing, because you help us understand what's happening behind all of these new signups. Just like Lead Scout saying, we're helping you understand what's behind these appointments you're setting each day. And that's really what it boils down to.
Man, I love that. I love that, Chris. I love that a lot. It's very intriguing. And guys, I must say, and I'm not saying this just because Chris and I work together. To be honest, I only tend to work with people I believe in. I tend to only like really because that's the way I can work best to my utmost to make sure I can really like help somebody get to that next level, right? And I must say, Lead Scout is amazing. It is really amazing in every single way, shape, and form. Like after everything that I've seen and witnessed, and then also like how I've seen it also transform people's lives. Like people not even in the home improvement space use your app for door knocking. That blew my brain. For like, you know, the election year and stuff like that. I saw that. I was like, whoa, that is crazy.
Yep.
Right. So it's like in a situation like this, having such a powerful tool and all can really, really, really impact your business the right way. Now, on that aspect too, something that we and forgive me for coming to this pocket, because it's just something that blows my mind, and I'm wondering why they designed it that way and why you guys are so different. Tools like Sales Rabbit and Spodio, right? So freaking expensive. Like so freaking expensive is insane. And it's like there's just so much going on in it. So it's like part of our research and stuff into the industry and everything. We realized that okay, these are like your bigger competitors, but they were just offering things, and also like the UI and stuff like that is not just as simple, and it's just like crazy and locking people into crazy contracts and stuff over a long period of time. Unlike you guys, month to month, very simple, straightforward. And you have such a big heart, brother, because you are like so in tune with every single person you have. So it's like your calendar is always full every single time. Just trying to like help people and all, you know. So why do you think that is the situation as to why Sales Rabbit and Spotify are doing what they do? Is it like just money grabbing? Is it like what exactly is it over there?
Not at all. In fact, I'm glad you brought those guys. And I, to be honest with you, Kofi, and I think if I haven't told you this before, I actually think if we're doing justice for our contractor community, which is what you and I are doing, right? We want to make the contractor community better, right? You're going to make it better through smarter, better performing digital ads, better websites. I mean, I'm sure you guys are kind of expanding what your footprint is in the digital space. I'm doing it from the, sales enablement side, the door-to-door side. But if we are being true to making this industry better, which all industry leaders are doing that, it isn't just about like, well, it's only Lead Scout. Here's the thing. What I said before about how important it is to measure, you could use, that suggests that you could use Sales Rabbit, Spodio, Canvas, these other tools, and you ought to. What all we're saying is that when you go and make that decision, because you need to have a tool to measure it, when you go to the store to test out the different sodas, I think you're just going to really like ours better. And if you don't, that's okay, right? Because there's certain things like there's just different flavors, right? And so it's more of like a flavor thing. So Sales Rabbit, number one, they're essentially a CRM. So for those that don't have a CRM, they might want some of those components as part of their door-to-door app. We believe that majority of the people, at least the people we're talking to, already have a CRM. And they don't need another one. So that's where it becomes, when we say it's heavy or there's a lot going on. Well, it's because they're having to manage all of those components to the door-to-door when they already have a CRM. So that's number one. Number two is they've been around a lot longer. And what happens when you are building something for a long time? You just have a tendency to build things that might not necessarily be like critical. right? Because we kind of, and we see that internally. It's like, well, we could do this, and we hear people user feedback saying, oh, if we could do this. And we are, I think thing that we do really well, and part of it is because we're forced to, because we're such a small company and we don't have an unlimited budget. We're forced to be like, we can only build the things that are absolutely mission critical. And so what happens when, a Sales Rabbit or Spotio that has received funding and they're growing and it's great and they're building all these like really cool features, I just question if they're really necessary when it comes to like the day-to-day practical utilization of a door-to-door app. Now they've got some really cool gamification stuff and all that stuff, and I don't want to downplay that because I've seen it, right? And there's some really reputable people like Sam Taggart, right? Door-to-door D2D Con, which if anybody's in door-to-door sales or thinking about going, you need to go to his conference. It's incredible. We go every year, but he has his D2D expert team and his D2D university. They're big supporters of Sales Rabbit, right? Now, some of that's because they've just been around a long time, and so is Sales Rabbit, right? Maybe Sam and I will partner up someday, but the reality is like Sam believes in the importance of, I think he said in his last podcast, which he did with Sales Rabbit, he said, don't make it a job, make it a game, right? Make it a sport. Like, let's turn this in when you're door knocking, like, don't make it a job, make it fun, make it a sport, a game. And so the only way to do that is have tools like a Lead Scout or Sales Rabbit. And so Sales Rabbit has done a really good job of that. But I think at the end of the day, they've been around a long time. They've built a lot of things on top of each other. They are, in many ways, a CRM, right? And yeah, I mean, when you bring out, when you do some of those things and you have, I got to be careful what I say, but like when you bring on a lot of things on top, you got to charge for that. Makes sense. So I think that's where some of it comes, and their economics and their model is at a different scale than ours. So that's why they require a quarterly or an annual commitment. I get why they do it. Trust me, I know. But I think, for the masses that are out there, I think it really comes down to simplicity. Just let me, because the reason why people don't want to use the tool and just write stuff down or just mark just keep track of the appointments is because they would say, Chris, I'll get more appointments. Those apps slow me down. Well, we don't want to slow you down. We want you to stay fast and collect the information and collect the data. So we keep it really lean. So it's simple, it's fast. And then because it's so simple, I don't have to charge you a lot, right? And we've just made the decision as a way to penetrate the market and get people to believe in us and try it and adopt it. We've said we got to do month to month. It's easier for everybody. I mean, you and I, regardless if it's our Netflix or Apple TV or whatever it is, we would prefer to pay month to month.
Yeah.
So we're more likely to give it a try. And we know that if they come in and do it for a few months, they're like, this is just so freaking, we hear it all day. It's like the best thing I hear during the day. Isn't so much how many sales that we make or how many new customers. It's when the customer's like, Chris, dude, this thing is just so easy to use. My guys love it. They actually use it, in fact, because it's so easy to use. And I'm not breaking the bank anymore. Right. And so that's, I think that's, so I want to give some, in some ways, some respect and love to Spotio and Sales Rabbit and Canvas. They came before us. We just wanted to do things, try to innovate within that space. And I think we have, but acknowledge that these tools are necessary.
Yeah.
I just think when you go to the store and you try the different sodas or it's kind of the art gallery example, they're all beautiful, but only one's going to be your favorite. I think about that with faith, we talked about our faith, and I think there's a lot of beautiful religions in the world, but there's just the most beautiful painting in the gallery of religions is hands down the story of Jesus. I mean, there's beautiful religions. They're incredible. But when you look at the art, the painting of Jesus and of what it means to be a Christian, there's just no more beautiful painting. It's the best looking one. So my point is I want people to make the decision for themselves, and that's what we say. So I want people knocking doors. I want them tracking it, and then I want them to try out a couple, and I'm confident that they're going to say, yours is, I can afford yours, and yours is the easiest to use. And then the rest kind of speaks for itself.
Yeah, I love that a lot. I love that a lot. Definitely, because it all just comes down to really empowering like the contractors and stuff to do what they do best, right? And it's like, I guess, and when you explain it like that from a business standpoint as well too, I definitely understand, like, you know, the more you add, yeah, you definitely got to charge because there's a lot of overhead and stuff coming in. So that's why keeping it simple and lean is actually like the best thing that you could do to like not make people break their bank, and people are using it. And man, it definitely warms my heart every single time as a business owner when you create a solution and you're tirelessly going at it, because I see you and Joey, like you guys are going at it every single time. And to get feedback from like the people that you created this for, saying that like, man, this is so ridiculously like easy to use. It's so easy and my guys are using it so much, I'm not breaking the bank. I can only imagine how happy you guys must have felt just hearing that, because that's definitely amazing, right? Now, I wanna get into the pocket of like the challenges as well of door to door, because it's like I guess, and this is a situation where, of course, I'm not privy to. No, it's like, for example, with my situation, I know the challenges of online marketing. The challenges of online marketing, it all comes to data. Lots of like inconsistencies and stuff can happen if you don't know where to look. You don't know what is affecting your CPLs, your CPAs, your CPMs. It's like things can go crazy. You'll be seeing like a situation where it's like, sure, you're getting lots of leads coming in, but then they're not converting. You're asking yourself why. It's like a whole like lot of things that can just really go into it. And if you don't know exactly what to do to like go through the muck to try and get rid of those challenges and solve those challenges, you end up like really wasting a lot, right? So what would you say are like the challenges of door to door knocking? And how, especially because in this situation, we've spoken about the sales part and like objection handling. Before this, we've also spoken about like the canvassing with the tool now that we have with Lead Scout. That's, you know, in Sales Rabbit and Spodio Bot. Favorite is Lead Scout, you know, guilty. And that is exactly what, like, you know, you're solving. What other challenges are there within the door to door knocking or the canvassing space? And how, from your experience, of course, so you have a wealth of experience, how have you been able to solve them so far?
Well, I'll start by saying you have a whole lot more challenges than we do. I mean, the world, like all the things you just said, I was kind of like, it's like you just started talking Chinese or whatever. I don't know what you just said. It's very complicated. There's a lot more moving parts. And the door to door, it kind of favors us blue collar guys a little bit better because there's just, I mean, there's certainly challenges, but it's just not as complicated. You know what I'm saying? So it's incredible what you and Kay are doing and how you've become students of this or I mean, we were just talking about like some new digital tools that you guys found and the whole thing with AI, and I'm glad smart guys like you are handling that because I don't know that. So yes, there's some challenges. This isn't necessarily in order of importance, but I'll speak to a couple things. The first one is mindset, because the canvasser is the agent out there, right? They're doing all of the work, right? And so we're completely reliant on their mindset, right? Because pretty much anything in life is just a mindset. And so we're sending these people out there, and we have to hope that they have a good mindset. And, you know, so one thing that we talk about as it relates to creating a healthy mindset is, listen, you're going to have, and that's example of 160, right? Where we only had like, did I say 5 appointments? So that leaves 155. And we'll say we had like 10, let's say we had 15 really good conversations that kind of built you up, right? They didn't book an appointment, but they were happy to see you. Maybe, shoot, I mean, I always say this about door knocking. Maybe they haven't talked to anybody in a couple of days. And they were just really glad you stopped by. Like we need to focus on that part. We always focus on the people we bother. Why do we do that? What about all the people that are so grateful that someone stopped by and smiled and learned their name and just had a conversation? Like we have a choice to decide which one we want to focus on. And for whatever reason, we always focus on bothering people. And the reality is, having been in this business, you don't bother a lot of people. You don't. Because the people that you would be bothering, guess what? They don't come to the door. So, I mean, they kind of like, well, he'll just leave eventually. You're not. It's very rare that you get a guy that comes to the door and is like, get the, off my property, and slams the door. That's very rare. It happens, but it's very rare. It's way more common to have this sweet old man or lady, or even like a 18-year-old kid come to the door. Now, they're not a decision maker, but maybe they just needed to talk to someone. You don't know that, right? So anyways, so mindset is so important. So what we say is, okay, 160, there's 155 left. 15 of those were good conversation. That means 140 doors are just duds. Could be some people that were a little bit upset about you coming by, but most of it's just no one home, right? So 140 doors, that's a lot. That's tough.
Yeah.
I kind of don't want to do it now, right? But here's what we say. Of those 4 that you met with, you sold one and you made $3,000, okay? Take $3,000 and divide it by 160. What do you get? I don't know the math on that, okay?
Yeah.
I'm just going to say, for simple math, I'm going to say $20, okay?
Yeah.
That means there's a $20 bill on every single door. So now I ask you, I say, where do you make more money? There's a $20 bill on every door, because I just took what you made in the day, divided by all the doors, it's a $20 bill. Where did you make more money today? On the doors, on those duds, or on the studs? It's the duds. Why? Well, 140 times $20. That's the most. So where do you make your money? You make your money on the nose. You can't get to the yeses without the nose. So you mentally, your mindset, the challenge is, instead of focusing on, man, this stinks, that 100, I mean, I spent most of my day on duds. Yeah, but there's a $20 bill taped to every door mentally. So you're going to go up there, you're going to pull it off the door. If they don't come to the door, that's fine. $20. Go to the next one. Pull the $20 bill off there. That's the mindset. So that's our big thing, is mindset. The other thing would be, from a challenge perspective, is I think, kind of go back to the sales, like making sure that they understand how to handle objections. They understand how to break the ice, and that you can develop some pretty poor habits if you put people out there and you don't have a system where you're checking in with them on a weekly basis or on a regular basis. You should always be role playing. It's not, it's kind of awkward, but you could role play over the phone. I mean, if you're an owner or manager, you can call your canvassers and be like, hey, let's role play a couple scenarios. All right, knock, knock, and just go through it. Right. And so the challenge is making sure our team in the field are staying sharp on what to say when someone says, listen, we're not interested. Okay. Adam Bensman, the roof strategist, had a great little deal on you. He's got tons of great content. So if you are indoor knocking, you need to find the roof strategist on YouTube and listen to all his stuff. It's all free and it's incredible. So he said, I don't know the type of like karate or whatever, but he said there's like this form of karate where when the attacker attacks you, you absorb, you actually use their energy at you against them. So what he says is, when they're like, hey, we're not interested, you say, I wouldn't be either. In fact, pretty much everybody I've knocked today have said that. And I don't blame you, because, I mean, you can't really see anything from the ground. It looks like your roof's fine, right? But what I'm here today to do is to figure out what's going on up there. And then you go into your pitch, right? So you have to have the ability to be prepared for those. As Adam talks about, like being robotic, but not a robot. You got to be robotic in that you're ready for it, right? And so when those questions come, you can just respond. Now, again, I'll use Adam as an example. It's not to the posture isn't to correct the homeowner or convince the homeowner. That's not even sales anyways, right? We sometimes get that confused, that we think that sales is like convincing somebody to do something. Sales is about understanding the person you're trying to sell, asking questions, understanding what do they want? What are they actually trying? What's going to make them happy?
Mm.
What is their need? And
Mm.
so Adam talks a lot about how the challenge of door-to-door sales is understanding that your job is not to sell them.
Mm.
Your job is to understand where they're at and what their needs are. And
Mm.
so we always, as he says, we coach our guys to just continue the conversation. Keep the conversation going.
Mm.
Ask another question. You don't, if they give you a negative response, you don't have to address that. You don't
Mm.
have to try to do away with it or explain it away.
Mm.
Just ask another question, right? Accept the fact that it's a legitimate concern, and then just say, well, so how long have you been in the area? Like, I mean, that was a bad maybe example that I just thought of, but like whatever they say, like, well, how long have you been in the area? I'm just literally going to ignore the fact that you just said that. I'm just going
Mm.
to keep asking questions until you just say, listen, like, you got to go, right? Okay. Hey, I really appreciate you coming to the door. It makes my job a lot more fun. I love my job. It's an easy job. So when people come to the door to talk to me, even if it's short, I really appreciate that. I mean, imagine rather than being bummed and like try to like, convince it, like, why not absorb that and be like, you know what, I totally understand, and stay positive. I love my job. I have a lot of fun. It's an easy job. I appreciate you coming over, because if no one came to the door, imagine what my job would be like. But you came to the door. So I'm really glad you did that. And it's having that long-term perspective, because guess where I'm going to come back to in a few weeks or month? Probably that same door. So I'm going to keep that real positive. I'm going to be the guy that was like okay with them really pushing me off the door
Mm.
and saying that how much I appreciated them coming to the door just for that small interaction. They're going to remember
Mm.
that.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, and it's very interesting that you say that, because it's like also like a mutual friend of ours on which through we also connected, which is Steven, right?
Mm-hmm.
Steven is so positive and he's just so fun, and then he just like loves to like he does the door to door. So it's like I know he has like he crushes it with his sales and the door to door knocking and stuff, because he just keeps on asking those type of questions, just like what you said, and just keeps things
Yep.
going with lots of positivity that just radiates off of him. So people are just like inclined to like just want to talk to him, right? So
Yep.
it's very interesting you say that. And
Yep.
and now with that as well too, man, I've learned a lot from this, and now I'm curious. I'm curious to the point where it's like, and of course, I would say that this is something where Lead Scout in itself has already done it. It's like the trends, the future trends that are coming out with door to
Yep.
door that you're seeing. Like for us, with the future trends we're seeing, we're in the pocket of AI, right? Whereas
Yep.
like first it started off with generative AI, it's soon going to get into predictive AI. A lot of like business owners and people just don't know how to leverage AI yet, and I'm like, look, you guys need to do it. We've done it in our business. It's phenomenal. It's working so well, right? So it's like
Yep.
situations like yours though, with the like door to door, you guys have a canvas in app in which you
Yep.
can now also even link that to a CRM like OI level or another system and everything of that sort, right?
Yep.
Are there any other sort of like trends, future trends you can
I
predict
love
just
this
based
one.
on
This
your
is a great
experience?
question.
The best way I can describe it, so there's two things that are happening with technology and AI and the ability to access information, okay, when you're door knocking. On one hand, we have a little bit of like a angst about it, because the more information we give a canvasser, unfortunately, more often prohibits their ability to go to the door, because now they're judging based on a certain set of circumstances or variables why they shouldn't go to the door. And the other challenge is the information that we're able to get isn't always right. There's no such thing as 100% accurate data. And so there's this constant, give and take of, okay, we want to give them the right information, but we don't want to give them information that could compromise their confidence and their ability and decision to just get to more doors. Because in the example I gave at the beginning, it really works when you get to more doors. So if you're constantly making these subjective decisions, although it's off of data, hopefully it's objective, but it's more subjective of, I'm going to pass this one, or it gets complicated. So we have, that's something that exists. But as the information gets better, but also as we can do more with it, now it's like, but man, now the pros might start far outweighing the cons when it comes to this. And from that standpoint, I'm talking about information that provides the canvasser the ability to move that customer further down the sales funnel than they can today. Because typically canvassers are not versed in the product and services. Typically they're just setting an appointment. They can speak to a high level, but it's kind of like, hey, I want to, that's what the salesperson's going to do. They're going to educate you on this stuff. But as we have tools like Roofle, right? Tools like Eagle View and some of these other ProFund. Okay, these are tools. I won't get into who they are, but write them down, Google them. Roofle, Eagle View, ProFund. They're starting to provide information on that consumer, on that homeowner, that allows somebody like a canvasser who hasn't been, formally trained on the product or service, provide additional level of value at the door. It could be an instant quote. It could be a solar like utilization efficiency for that particular home based on the data that Eagle View has, right? It could be storm related information, right? That ProFund is providing, or a tool like predictive sales AI. Okay. So all of a sudden now we can put this really powerful information on the device of the canvasser in a way that can allow them to bring more value to the homeowner other than a friendly face, good questions, right? The ability to create a sense of, I think I might need to meet with somebody from your company, right?
Yeah.
We've just empowered them and equipped them with more because of all of that data and all that's available. So I think that's where, as we get better, it's going to, guys like me that might be more of the purists, like just go to every door. It's kind of what I tell people. It's like, don't overthink it. Just go to every door, right? You'll know when you get there.
Yeah.
As we see the ability to access, and Lead Scout's talking to these companies about that, right? I mean, how cool would it be if a canvasser could be trained just enough, right, where at the door they could literally sell the roof because they're able to get an instant quote just like that, right? And so partnering with tools like Roofle and others allow us the potential of doing that very soon. So that's kind of, I hope, like my excitement around what's available, and then how Lead Scout can use that.
No, I love that, Chris. I love that a lot. That really does say a lot. Especially with the trends, especially with, because I even have it, not even like the door to door. I had a situation where I had some cold callers, like, calling businesses. I realized that the more information I gave them, the less effective they were, because it was like there was just so much going on, right? So it's like, it's very intriguing when you say that, just like get the stuff done. And just like, bide your time, get them in there, and then leave it as to like, the person going to set the appointment versus the person that's actually doing the sales to come and educate that person. Leave those two be, and just like, scale upwards through that. I love that, Chris. Thank you so much, brother. I know you have to go, but with, I guess right as you are going, I just want to let people know, with your permission, of course, how best, if anybody wants to contact you or reach you, how best they can reach you. Guys, the Lead Scout app is available for you to download and use if you're a contractor. I will put the link below for you to download. You have a 7-day free trial. You may have a 14-day free trial if you join a specific webinar to, like, find out exactly more about what Lead Scout app does. We can also link that below for you as well. But any final words from you, Chris, to the audience whatsoever?
Yeah, well, I just thank you for giving me this opportunity to share, and for partnering with Lead Scout. I mean, I told Kay yesterday, you guys have been an absolute joy. So for those listening that don't have a trusted digital partner, you gotta talk to Kofi and Kay. So truly, you guys have been consummate professionals. Your communication's incredible. You're fun to work with. Right. When I say you're a joy to work with, I'm not just saying that. You guys are fun. We have fun together. And I'm just really excited, to see how this webinar, turns out. And so check out the webinar. Make sure you leave a link for that. But I think for now, the best way is just Google Lead Scout on the App Store or Play Store. The best way to get in with what Lead Scout's doing is just, we're all about the app. So download the app, sign up. It's free. You don't even need a credit card. You get 7 days free without any strings attached. Right? We get a lot of people calling us like, "Hey, can you, I don't think it's for me. Can you cancel?" And I'm like, "Well, cancel what? Like, you didn't give me it. I mean, you have there's no, and they're not used to that. They're kind of like, I just assumed that you're going to charge my card or charge my, Apple Pay, and there is no strings attached. So the best thing to do is just sign up, play around with it, see for yourself, right? And then, of course, once you're in, you can message us, you can set up a call with us, and once you're in, then we're gonna love on you the best that we can. You'll get a lot of messages from us, thanks to Kofi and Kay helping us set up some automation so that we, some people are like, "Oh, you're sending me all these messages." I'm like, "Well, listen, I just want to make sure we're here so that you have information and you have resources," because unfortunately for everybody that says that, there's 5 people that are like, "I didn't know," or "I didn't," so we have a ton of information available where we are available live. You can chat with us in the app. But yeah, the best thing to just go to the App Store and then check out the webinar that's coming out.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Chris. Guys, this has been fire. It's been amazing. Again, I've become a believer in door-to-door as well. The marriage between door-to-door and like digital is like the best thing, in which Chris and I are doing specifically. With that being said, I will let Chris go because Chris has a lovely daughter he has to tend to.
I apologize.
Brother, appreciate you. No worries. I appreciate you so much for all of this and everything. But yeah, we'll catch up soon. Okay, brother. Awesome. All right. See you, brother. See you guys. Take care.